Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gopinata Radha Gopinata Shri Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadramai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jum Shvala Pranasaya Parishara Stotra Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Iskon Founder Acharya Guru Prabhupada Ki Jai Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Dai Gaur Premanande Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, titled The First Step in God Realization. Text number 13. Khatvango Nama Rajasir Khatvango Nama Rajasir Gyantve Yatam Ihayusaha Gyantve Yatam Ihayusaha Muhurtat Sarvam Utsrijya Muhurtat Sarvam Utsrijya Gatavan Abhayam Harim Gatavan Abhayam Harim Khatvango Nama Rajasir Gyantve Yatam Ihayusaha Muhurtat Sarvam Utsrijya Gatavan Abhayam Harim Khatvango Nama Rajasir Gyantve Yatam Ihayusaha Muhurtat Sarvam Utsrijya Gatavan Abhayam Harim Mataji's. Word for word translation, Katvangaha, King Katvanga, Nama, name, Raja Risihi, saintly king, Gyantva, by knowing, Iyatam, duration, Iha, in this world, Ayusaha, of one's life, Muhurtat, within only a moment, Sarvam, everything, Utsrijya, leaving aside, Gatavan, had undergone, Abhayam, fully safe, Harim, the personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: The saintly king Katvanga, after being informed that the duration of his life would be only a moment more, at once freed himself from all mature activities and took shelter of the supreme safety, the personality of Godhead. Purport: A fully responsible man should always be conscious of the prime duty of the present human form of life. The activities to meet the immediate necessities of mature life are not everything. One should always be alert in his duty for attainment of the best situation in the next life. Human life is meant for preparing our souls for that prime duty. Maharaj Katvanga is mentioned herein as a saintly king because even within the responsibility of the state management, he was not at all forgetful of the prime duty of life. Such was the case with other Raja Rishis, saintly kings, like Maharaj Yudhishthira and Maharaj Parikshit. They were all exemplary personalities on account of their being alert in discharging their prime duty. Maharaj Katvanga was invited by the demigods in the higher planets to fight demons, and as a king he fought the battles to the full satisfaction of the demigods. The demigods, being fully satisfied with him, wanted to give him some benediction for mature enjoyment. But Maharaj Katvanga, being very much alert to his prime duty, inquired from the demigods about his remaining duration of life. This means that he was not as anxious to accumulate some mature benediction from the demigods as he was to prepare himself for the next life. He was informed by the demigods, however, that his life would last only a moment longer. The king at once left the heavenly kingdom, which is always full of mature enjoyment of the highest standard, and coming down to this earth, took ultimate shelter of the all-safe personality of Godhead. He was successful in his great attempt and achieved liberation. This attempt, even for a moment by the saintly king, was successful because he was always alert to his prime duty. Maharaj Parikshit was thus encouraged by the great Sukadeva Goswami, even though he had only 7 days left in his life to execute the prime duty of hearing the glories of the Lord in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. By the will of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit instantly met the great Sukadeva Goswami, and the great treasure of spiritual success left by him is nicely mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chaksul Mnitam Yena Tasmei Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. Thank you for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class today. So, we're continuing our discussion of the first chapter, Canto 2. So now we're hearing Sukadeva Goswami speaking to Parikshit Maharaj. And in today's verse, Sukadeva Goswami is encouraging Parikshit Maharaj. Because externally this seems like a very negative or bad situation. Maharaj Parikshit, he's been cursed that in 7 days he's going to die. But Sukadeva Goswami, he's trying to help Maharaj Parikshit stay positive and encourage him by, in today's verse, giving the example of Maharaj Khatwanga. So Sukadeva Goswami, he's trying to say that, you have 7 days to live, but what about Maharaj Khatwanga? Maharaj Khatwanga, he was a king just like you. So he's giving a very nice example because Parikshit Maharaj could relate to Maharaj Khatwanga because Parikshit Maharaj is a king and Khatwanga Maharaj is a king also. Sukadeva Goswami could have gave the example of a Brahmana or, some renunciate. But Maharaj Parikshit could have said, okay, but he's a Brahmana, but I'm a king. Or he's a renunciate, but I'm a king. How can I relate with that? So Sukadeva Goswami, he gives a very nice example which Maharaj Parikshit can relate to by giving an example of a former king in a previous age named Maharaj Khatwanga. And Khatwanga Maharaj, just like Maharaj Parikshit, he also found out how much longer he had to live by a boon given by the demigods. But in his case, unlike Maharaj Parikshit understood that he had 7 more days to live. But with Khatwanga Maharaj, he only had 1 more moment to live. So in this way, Sukadeva Goswami is trying to encourage Parikshit Maharaj by saying that actually you still have a lot of time to perfect yourself. You still have a lot of time to become fully Krishna conscious and go back home, back to Godhead. Just look at the example of Maharaj Khatwanga. You have 7 days to live, but he only had 1 moment. What's 1 moment in comparison to 7 days? But still, by the mercy of the Lord, he was able to perfect himself and go back home, back to Godhead. So you can also do. Compared to Maharaj Khatwanga, you have so much more time. So don't be morose or put down. Instead, be happy that you still, by Krishna's mercy, you still have so much time. So in this way, Sukadeva Goswami, as the spiritual master Maharaj Parikshit, is trying to encourage his disciple in his Krishna consciousness. So now we'll talk from the purport. Prabhupada first is saying in the purport, a fully responsible man should always be conscious of the prime duty of the present human form of life. The activities to meet the immediate necessities of material life are not everything. So this point is mentioned again and again in the Shastras many times. There's one nice verse by Prahlad Maharaj in 7th canto. So this verse, Prahlad Maharaj is speaking to his classmates. So in 7th canto, Prabhupada explains that Sandhya and Amarika, Prahlad Maharaj's teachers, they would teach Prahlad Maharaj and all the other sons of the demons, different things like politics, how to conquer over your enemies, how to tell lies, how to be very diplomatic, and all these material science. And Prahlad Maharaj, he would just pretend to listen. And during the lunch break, or the tiffin hour, Prabhupada would say that Prahlad Maharaj, he would then start preaching to his classmates about Krishna consciousness. So this is one of the nice verses Prahlad Maharaj says. Prahlad Maharaj says, Sukham Endrika Decham Deho Yogena Dehinam Sarvata Labhyata Deva Yata Dukham Ayatnataha. So in this verse, Prahlad Maharaj is saying, Sukham Endriya, that the pleasure or the material happiness that one gets in sense gratification, it's available in any species of life. And the pleasure is the same, which means the same pleasure the human being gets in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, that exact same pleasure animals they're experiencing. It's not that because we're in a higher species of the human form that when we eat, sleep, mate, or defend, we get some higher pleasure. It's actually the exact same pleasure. Which means when a human being, when he's eating some nice pizza or a burger or something nice, he's experiencing the exact same pleasure as a hog does when he eats too. There's no difference in the pleasure. That's what Prahlad Maharaj is saying. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj is saying, why should we engage for that same happiness which the animals are freely getting? For us, we have to work hard, get money, and then we can go to the food court and, human beings can buy pizza or pasta or, burger or something nice. But animals, they can, like hogs, they can freely just go roam around and just get stool and eat, and they experience the same level of happiness. So that's the first point Prahlad Maharaj explains, that the happiness, mature happiness we get with the senses coming in contact with sense objects is the exact same pleasure in all the species of life. So why waste our human form of life going for the same happiness that even the animals are experiencing? Point number 2 that Prahlad Maharaj mentions is our mature happiness is already predestined and it will come to us automatically. Just like a mature distress. Prahlad Maharaj explains, just like without any endeavor from our own side, distress comes to us. No one plans or endeavors to get mature distress or unhappiness. No one makes a plan, okay, too much happiness is coming in my life, I need to get some suffering, and no one, on the iPod or iPhone makes a plan, okay, I'll do this, this and that, and to get some suffering for myself. No, suffering and distress automatically comes by nature's own accord, by our own karma. So in the same way Prahlad Maharaj mentions, just like distress and unhappiness automatically hits us even though we don't plan for it, in the same way mature happiness will automatically come to us. We don't have to plan for it, we don't have to endeavor. Based on our own karma, mature happiness will come to us. So these are very two powerful points that Prahlad Maharaj he explains to his classmates. So point number 1, this mature happiness is available in all the species of life. The hogs, the cats, dogs, the insects, birds, they're experiencing the same pleasure as human beings. And point number 2, this mature happiness will automatically come to us. We don't have to work hard or endeavor for it. Based on the karma, whatever happiness we're destined to get will automatically come. Just like, one example, just like in school, everyone puts the hard yard, everyone studies hard, but some are intelligent, some are just naturally able to get high marks, 90%, 100%, and they just score very highly. And other students, even though they might have studied harder, they're still, 70% or 60%. So based on our own karma, these things like Kunti Maharaj mentions, based on our own karma, beauty, strength, opulence, intelligence, these are all predestined by our karma. So based on our previous karma, we're given a certain level of intelligence, our body is endowed with a certain level of beauty, certain level of renunciation, all these things. So instead, that's why Shastras explain, one should utilize this human form to endeavor for something which is beyond sense gratifying, which is beyond the happiness that even the animals get. And that's what Prabhupada is saying here. Fully responsible man should always be conscious of the prime duty of the present human form of life. The activities to meet the immediate necessities of mature life are not everything. One should always be alert in his duty for attainment of the best situation in the next life. So Prabhupada is saying we should start planning. We should use this human body to plan and make endeavors to get out of this material world and go to the spiritual world. Just like Prabhupada will give the example, just like we're renting a house and the lease is we're renting it for 1 year and the lease is going to expire after 1 year, and it's only, let's say it's going to expire end of February. So that means an intelligent person who will start planning, he will start going online and searching for a new apartment or new house to rent. Because just in 20 days, that's it, the lease is over and he's going to be forced to leave this apartment and go somewhere else. So intelligent man who would start planning, go online and start looking for a different place so where he can live after this rental period is finished. So that's what Prabhupada is explaining, that this human body, there's a certain shelf life for it, only 100 years or 80 years, 90 years. After that, we have to leave this body. So intelligent person, he would start planning, what body am I going to get after I leave this body, Why come back, I've taken millions and millions of births in so many different species of life. Why again get a material body in my next life? Let me plan so in my next life I will get a spiritual body in the spiritual world. So that's what Prabhupada is explaining, that instead of going after mature happiness which will automatically come to us, instead of going after mature happiness which even the animals are getting, instead we should endeavor for a spiritual body in our next life. Human life is meant for preparing our souls for that prime duty. Maharaj Khatvanga is mentioned herein as a saintly king because even within the responsibility of the state management, he was not at all forgetful of the prime duty of life. Such was the case with other Rajarishis, saintly kings like Maharaj Yudhishthira and Maharaj Parikshit. So one important point Prabhupada mentions about Maharaj Khatvanga is that Maharaj Khatvanga as a king, he was engaged in many different material affairs. He had the responsibility to manage the whole state or the whole government. And even though he had such a big mature responsibility that he had to take care of a whole kingdom, still he was able to remember Krishna. Still he was able to not forget Krishna, not forget his prime duty of life. So this is something that we can all take lesson from and take inspiration, because we're all in a similar position. We all have different mature duties. We all go to work, we have family or children, and we have so many mature duties. But Maharaj Khatwanga's case, he was even more. It's not that Maharaj Khatwanga just had one family, one wife, children, and he just had like one small job he had to go to. But no, as a king, his family was the whole kingdom. So as it's mentioned in 5th canto, we see from the example of Maharaj Gaya, it's mentioned, for Maharaj Gaya, the whole kingdom, all the citizens, all the praja were just like his family. And just like a father would take care of the children, in the same way, Maharaj Gaya used to take care of all the citizens. And it's mentioned the way Maharaj Gaya used to take care of citizens is that whenever the citizens would do something good, he would give them gifts and he would encourage them, give them compliments. So he'd speak nice, sweet words to encourage citizens. And at the same time, he would give instructions. And whenever some citizens were doing something wrong, as is the duty of a father or a king, he would correct them and tell them this is not good, or give them a punishment if needed. And on a physical level, he would take care, it's mentioned Posana, on a physical level, he would make sure that all the citizens are fed nicely, there's enough food, grains, water, fruits and veggies and grains for all the living entities. And on a mental level, he would make sure that all the citizens are very peaceful and satisfied in their own varna and ashram. And on a spiritual level, he would make sure that everyone is endeavoring on the right path and going back home, back to Godhead, and everyone is protected from lust. So this is such a great responsibility of a king. Not only does the king have to take care of his own mind and own senses, not only does he have to focus his own mind on Krishna, not only does he have to take care of his own family, his own children and wife, but he is responsible for taking care of the physical, mental and spiritual well-being of each and every citizen in the kingdom. And the citizens or the praja is not just the human beings. Bhagavatam explains in Vedic culture, the praja includes all the animals, all the birds, insects, everyone. So such a great responsibility. So even within such great mature responsibility, such great mature duty, still Maharaj Khatwanga was able to remember Krishna. Still he wasn't forgetful. So from this we can take inspiration that although these great saintly Raja Rishis like Parikshit Maharaj, Maharaj Yudhishthira, Khatwanga, although they had such great mature duties to perform, not only taking care of their own family, but taking care of the whole kingdom and all the animals, still, despite all these mature duties, they were able to remember Krishna. They were able to be focused on their Krishna consciousness. So in the same way, even though we might be working, even though we might have family, children, and many different mature responsibilities, we can take inspiration from these great kings. And we can also be focused on Krishna. And how to do that? Well, one nice thing is we can pray to Radha Gopinath to please give us the intelligence by which we can, in our daily mature duties, we can still remember him. Like my Guru Maharaj, he says, sometimes he gives lectures on lifestyle engineering. So engineering is when you construct something, either construct a tunnel or construct a train or construct a big building, you have to engineer, plan and make a particular structure. So in the same way, my Guru Maharaj mentions, lifestyle engineering is all about molding and making plans or engineering our lifestyle in such a way that we'll always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So for that, obviously, we need intelligence given by Krishna himself. So all knowledge, remembrance comes from Krishna. So this could be one of our prayers to Radha Gopinath, that please, I'm finding it hard to remember you while I'm going out to work or do this or that. Can you please give me the intelligence, or please remind me of yourself while I'm engaged in my mature duties. And know that Krishna will fulfill our prayers. So as devotees, this is a healthy anxiety or healthy fear to have. Like Prabhupada explains that Like in devotional service, one nice thing about Bhakti Yoga is that all our emotions, whatever natural emotions we have as human beings, all those emotions can be engaged in Krishna's service. So one emotion is fear and anxiety. And Prabhupada says a devotee can overcome material fear and anxiety with spiritual fear. And what is spiritual fear? Spiritual fear is that a devotee is always afraid of getting into Maya, or a devotee is always afraid of forgetting Krishna. So Prabhupada writes that this is healthy fear. This is actually good fear every devotee should have. Every devotee should fear of falling into Maya. One time, Prabhupada was, for quite some time, Prabhupada was standing in front of the deities and praying. And one of Prabhupada's disciples, he asked Prabhupada, if you don't mind, what were you praying to the deities for? And Prabhupada said that I was praying to Radharani to please protect me from Maya, please protect me from the illusory energy. And the disciples were stunned, Just before Prabhupada in the lecture, Prabhupada said, I'm never going to fall down, Maya cannot touch me. And his disciple asked, Prabhupada, you said, you can never fall down, Maya cannot touch you. And at the same time, you're coming and praying to the deities, please protect me from Maya. How is this? And Prabhupada said that because I'm praying to Radharani to protect me from Maya, that's why I'm confident I'll never fall into Maya. And in this way, Prabhupada taught us that as devotees, we should always be afraid of falling into the illusory energy. We should always be afraid of forgetting Krishna, and we should also always pray to Srimati Radharani to protect us from the illusory energy. Another instance is in Krishna book, when Narad Muni, he goes to visit Krishna in Dwarka. Narad Muni is curious, how is Krishna married these 16,108 queens? How is he taking care of them? So Narad Muni, he goes first to Mother Rukmini's palace, and Krishna is engaged with Mother Rukmini in a certain activity, and then he goes to another palace, and Krishna is doing something different. And in this way, he goes and visits all the different palaces of all the different queens. And Narad Muni is stunned. In each and every different palace, Krishna is doing something different. In one palace, he's playing chess with his queen. In another palace, he's playing games with his sons. In another palace, he's talking with his wife. In this way, every single palace, Krishna was doing something different. So at the end, Krishna, he asked Narad Muni that you please ask me for any benediction. Whatever you want, you please ask me for something. And Narad Muni, the topmost devotee of Lord, like in every canto we see, the glories of Narad Muni, how he has created so many devotees and such a great Mahabhagavat. Actually, it's mentioned he's a Shaktavais avatar of the Lord, and he's empowered with Bhakti Shakti, which means he's empowered with the potency or the power to give bhakti or devotional service to anyone he wants. So whoever he wants, he can give them bhakti or pure devotional service. So when such a pure devotee of the Lord is asked by Krishna himself, you please ask me for whatever you want. What's the prayer he asks? He asks, my Lord, you simply bless me that I always remember you and never forget you. So so we can also learn from this, what should the prayer of a pure devotee should be. He doesn't care about anything else. All he wants is to always remember the lotus feet of Sri Radha Gopinath and never forget that. And so that could be one of our prayers that we offer to Radha Gopinath, that please bless me so I always remember you, never forget you. Please give me the intelligence of how I can engineer my lifestyle in such a way, mold my lifestyle in such a way that I always remember you, despite all my material duties which I have to perform. Another obstacle that could impede our remembrance of Krishna, that the Shastras repeatedly point out, is pride. So whenever this demon of pride comes into our consciousness, one immediately forgets Krishna. And the Shastras repeatedly warn us that we should completely stay away from this demon of pride. Classical example is of Indra. So all the demigods like Indra, they're all devotees of Krishna. But when these demigods, they get overcome by this demon of pride, they forget Krishna. And we see that in Krishna book with Indra. He became so proud of his material possession, of being the king of heaven, of all his material powers. So much so that, he tried to assassinate all the Vrajvasis, all the pure devotees of Krishna, tried to, kill them. And he was doing this for 7 days, you would have thought, after one day he would have got the point. Okay, Krishna is Supreme Personality Godhead, and I'm his servant. But for 7 days, he just went on. And only after 7 days, he came to his senses and realized what he was doing. So this is the nature of pride. It could completely cover over intelligence and completely make us forget Krishna. So this is something we need to be very careful of. And how to counteract this? In 7th canto, in Narad Muni's instructions to Maharaj Yudhishthira. Narad Muni, he gives different solutions for different material problems. Just like for pride, he gives the example that to overcome pride, one should serve saintly devotees. One should serve great devotees of the Lord. Because when we're doing service, it's usually like some menial service, then naturally a false ego gets put down. So we should always seek opportunities to serve the Vaishnavas. And when we serve other Vaishnavas, then naturally our material pride will reduce. And obviously another thing that we can easily do is we can come in front of deities and pray that, please, this demon of pride sometimes impedes my remembrance of you and I forget you. You please bless me so I would never be overcome by this demon of pride. And that's what Lord Brahma does. It's, I think, in 3rd canto, 4th canto Bhagavatam. There's this chapter, Brahma's prayers for creative energy. So in that chapter, Lord Brahma, before he starts his service of creating the whole material world, he offers many, many beautiful prayers to Vishnu, to Krishna. And one of the prayers he offers to Vishnu is, my Lord, you've given me such a great devotional, such a great task, to create the whole material universe. This is such a great service. And after I do this, naturally pride will overcome me. That, I created this whole universe. All the planetary systems were created by me. All these living entities, these bodies of the different living entities were created by me. I created this whole universe. Naturally, I can get overcome by so much pride. So, my Lord, you please bless me that even though I'm engaged in this great service of creating the whole universe, creating all the living entities, please bless me that I don't get overcome by pride while I'm engaged in my service. So we can also follow in the footsteps of Brahma, the head of Sampradaya, and also offer this prayer to Radha Gopinath, that thank you for giving me so much nice service to do for you, but I'm afraid that I might get overcome by pride while engaged in devotion. You please bless me that I always stay as the humble servant of your devotees and never get overcome by this demon of pride. Okay, we'll continue on with the purport. They were all exemplary personalities on account of their being alert in discharging their prime duty. Maharaj Khatwanga was invited by the demigods in the higher planets to fight demons, and as a king he fought the battles to the full satisfaction of the demigods. The demigods, being fully satisfied with him, wanted to give him some benediction for mature enjoyment. But Maharaj Khatwanga, being very much alert to his prime duty, inquired from the demigods about his remaining duration of life. This means that he was not as anxious to accumulate some mature benediction from the demigods as he was to prepare himself for the next life. So the first thing Prabhupada says we can learn from Maharaj Khatwanga was that even though he was engaged in so many material duties, he was still able to remember Krishna. And the second thing Prabhupada's explaining, Prabhupada quotes briefly the story of Maharaj Khatwanga. So he was a great king and on the earthly planet, and the demigods, they were fighting against demons and they were losing, and the demigods, they asked Maharaj Khatwanga to please come to the heavenly planets to assist them in fighting the demons. And Maharaj Khatwanga, he fought very nicely against the demons and defeated them. And the demigods, being very pleased with Maharaj Khatwanga, they offered him some benediction. And Prabhupada's mentioning that they were ready to give any material benedictions to Maharaj Khatwanga. But Prabhupada writes that Maharaj Khatwanga, being very much alert to his prime duty, inquired from the demigods about his remaining duration of life. So although he had the opportunity to ask for any mature enjoyment, still Prabhupada writes, he was focused on Krishna and he wasn't deviated. So this is another quality of devotee, that although Maya may put forward different allurements of mature enjoyment, a devotee, he just says no and he chooses Krishna. Same thing we see with Prahlad Maharaj. So Prabhupada explains that Prahlad Maharaj, he descended through this world to show us pure devotional service. So after Nrsimhadev, he kills Hiranyakashipu, Nrsimhadev, he offers Prahlad Maharaj benediction. Ask me whatever you want. I want to give you a benediction. Whatever you want, you can ask me. And Prahlad Maharaj firstly replies that please don't tempt me with material benedictions. You don't know my background. I'm born in a demoniac family, demonic blood I have in my body. Don't tempt me with these material benedictions, You are my master, I am your servant. There is no other relationship between me and you. I just simply want to engage in your devotional service. In this way, Prabhupada writes that Prahlad Maharaj, Nrsimhadev was testing Prahlad Maharaj, or was using Prahlad Maharaj to show us the example of pure devotional service. A devotee, although he might have the opportunity to engage in mature enjoyment, he always shuns away from that. He always sticks to his devotional service. So just like we see that with Prahlad Maharaj, we see the same thing with Khatvanga Maharaj. He was there, right there in the heavenly planets. He could see all the different demigods enjoying all the different facilities of the heavenly kingdom. But even though he's seeing all these demigods enjoying heavenly life, and he's given this opportunity, he can ask any boon he likes. He could have easily asked, please, let me stay here for 1,000 years, 10,000 years. But no. What's the thing he asked? He asked, please tell me how much more time I have to live. So that way he could plan for his next life. So this is another nice point that we can understand, because just as Maharaj Khatvanga, he's being tempted here with mature enjoyment. Similarly, Maya, to test us, she'll also put many different allurements of mature enjoyment in our path. The example is given that Maya is just like a teacher. She doesn't have any hard feelings towards us. It's not like the teacher has some grudge against us and she'll put some really, really hard questions in the test just to make us fail or just to make us study hard or put us into distress. No, the teacher is a genuine well-wisher, and the teacher just wants us to learn, gain proper knowledge. And when the teacher sees that the student is qualified, she'll graduate us to the next level from year 3 to year 4. But to help her understand that we're qualified to go to the next level, she has to set some exam papers to test us, whether the student has studied nicely, whether he has understood all the knowledge. So in the same way, to get out of this mature world, to go to the spiritual world, this is Maya's selfless task. She has to be like the teacher who sets the exam paper to help Krishna understand whether this soul is qualified to go back to the spiritual world. So in this way, just like a teacher, she'll put many different questions to test the student whether he's actually qualified to graduate to the next grade. Similarly, it's Maya's duty, Maya's service to Krishna, to test all the conditioned souls, whether they're actually qualified to go back to the spiritual world. Because if we, for example, if we have problems, in this world with pride, envy, not getting along good with devotees, and if we go to the spiritual world with those anathas, we won't fit in the spiritual world. We'll just cause mayhem in the spiritual world with the other devotees of Krishna. So it's Maya's duty to test us. And one of the tests Maya gives is she'll put forward different lures of mature enjoyment, different opportunities to engage in sense gratification. So taking inspiration from these great saintly kings, it's our duty to say no to Maya and say yes to Krishna. My Guru Maharaj, he mentions that just like there was one ad I remember seeing on TV in regarding to quitting smoking. And this ad was saying that willpower is just like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. And in the ad, they showed a picture of a guy, or like a cartoon, flexing his muscles. And he was showing, the more he flexed his muscle, the muscle was becoming bigger and bigger. So in the same way, just as the more we flex our muscles or the more weights we lift, our muscles become bigger and bigger. So in the same way this ad was saying, in the same way, the more we use our willpower, the stronger our willpower will become. The stronger our determination will become. So in the same way my Guru Maharaj mentions, every time we say yes to Krishna, every time we say no to Maya, our spiritual determination, our spiritual willpower will increase. And it will become more and more easier to say yes to Krishna. So, and these moments of saying yes to Krishna and no to Maya, it's not that it will come once a day or once a week, once a month. It will come every moment. Every moment we have to choose Krishna over Maya. Prabhupada writes, in CC it's explained, Krishna Surya Sama Maya Hoya Andakar. Yahan Krishna Taran Nahi Maya Adhikar. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's explained that Krishna is like the sun and Maya is like darkness. Where there is Krishna, there is no darkness, there is no Maya. So Prabhupada explains that light and shadow, or light and darkness, they're standing side by side. And at every moment, we have the choice to choose. Either we want to go to the light or to the darkness. So at every moment, we all have a certain level of independence because Krishna is supremely independent and we're all part and parcel of Krishna. So as Jivas, Krishna has given us all a tiny, minute particle of independence. So as Jivas, we have this independence to choose whether I'm going to choose Krishna or Maya. And this choice, it's not that it will come once a day or once a month. It will come every moment. Every moment of our existence, this choice will come, whether I want to choose Krishna or choose Maya. And the more we choose Krishna over Maya, the stronger our spiritual determination will become, the stronger our spiritual willpower will become. Just like with the analogy, the more we flex our muscle, the stronger the muscle will become. So in the same way, more we choose Krishna over Maya, the more stronger, more spiritually determined we'll become in Krishna consciousness. And we can take inspiration from other devotees. If we stay close with other devotees who are very fixed and determined in their Krishna consciousness, then that would give us inspiration. That would also give us great strength to choose Krishna over Maya. I'll continue on with the purport. This means that he was not as anxious to accumulate some material benediction from the demigods as he was to prepare himself for the next life. He was informed by the demigods, however, that his life would last only a moment longer. The king at once left the heavenly kingdom, which is always full of material enjoyment of the highest standard, and coming down to this earth, took ultimate shelter of the all-safe personality of Godhead. He was successful in his great attempt and achieved liberation. This attempt, even for a moment by the saintly king, was successful because he was always alert to his prime duty. So as the story goes, he asked the demigods, okay, I don't want any material benediction, just tell me how much more longer I have to live. And the demigods say, okay, it's funny you asked that because you only have one more moment to live. And what does Maharaj Khatvanga do? Immediately he leaves the heavenly kingdom and he comes back down to his abode here in the material, in planet Earth, and he immediately takes full shelter of Krishna and surrenders, and he goes back home, back to Godhead. And one important point Prabhupada is mentioning, the reason Maharaj Khatvanga, in the last moment of his life, the reason or how he could immediately take full shelter of Lord is because through his whole life he was practicing Krishna consciousness. So it's not that during his whole life he was engaged in material affairs and then just at the right end of life he just suddenly switched and took shelter of Krishna. So Prabhupada explains, yes, whatever we think of at the time of death, we'll attain in the next life. But the thing that we think of at the time of death is that thing which is most dear to us. So unless we practice Krishna consciousness throughout our whole life, engaging in devotional service, at the moment of death, Krishna won't naturally come. So unless we practice always remembering Krishna, practice never forgetting Krishna, unless we practice devotional service day in, day out, Krishna won't just suddenly appear in our mind. And this is mentioned with the example of Khatvanga Maharaj. If we read 9th canto where his story comes, in that section it's mentioned that Maharaj Khatvanga, right from his childhood, he never forgot Krishna. Right from his childhood, he was always engaged in devotional service. That's why right at the last end of his life, in the last moment, naturally he was able to remember Krishna. Just like Jananda Maharaj, His Holiness Jananda Maharaj, he was giving an example that, in France he was coming down the stairs and he just tripped. And when he was falling down, he didn't plan to say, he wasn't thinking, I need to chant Krishna name. Just naturally, out of instinct, out of practice, he just shouted the name of Krishna when his head hit the floor. And Maharaj explained the reason he was able to do that, because his whole life he's been practicing Krishna consciousness. For 50 years or more than 50 years, he's been engaged in devotional service. So now naturally, whenever something comes, naturally Krishna's holy name comes out of the mouth. So in the same way, unless we practice now, then at the end of life, just like with Maharaj Khatvanga or Maharaj Parikshit, we'll be able to remember Krishna. And Prabhupada writes, even if we're put in some very difficult condition where we can't remember Krishna, Krishna will forcibly come into our mind and Krishna will force us to remember him. That's how kind Krishna is. We might forget Krishna, but Krishna never forgets us. Krishna remembers all the devotional service we've done for him in our life. So even if we can't remember him, Krishna will force himself into our mind and help us remember him. Okay, we're just on time. We'll stop here. Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaur Pramanande.